ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
You know, it kind of cracks me up because I tend to be kind of a risk taker in life. But as a risk taker, I know that sometimes I strike out. And I think anybody that listens to this show, are you a musician? Are you a comedian? Are you an artist? Are you a hedge fund guy? To get into those businesses, you have to be tolerant and comfortable with uncomfortable. Are you comfortable with uncomfortable? A lot of people, these kind of people I don't like. Oh, they're around here too. Oh, they love Colin takes risks. Don't get in trouble, though. It's like telling your stockbroker, 15% annual returns. I don't want any losses, though. Get lost. Want to be a player? Want to take risks? Want to get rich? Can't do it saving money. Got to be an angel investor. You're going to go broke. A lot of guys want to be in the game, but they're not comfortable being in the game. They want all the good returns, but they don't want their stockbroker to ever roll the dice in a stock from Norway you're not sure about that paid 800% 2 years ago and goes belly up this year. So listen, if you're not comfortable with risk, get lost. A lot of us are. If you're not comfortable, the Yankees are complete hypocrites. The Yankees love all the upside of risk. They don't like any of the downside of risk. They love rock stars like Jeter. They love rock stars. They love Reggie Jackson. Yeah, everybody's watching. Yeah, but A-Rod doesn't listen to us. I don't like that. Oh, you thought he was clean when you got him? And you re-signed him, really? When you gave him a contract extension? You knew what was going on. You heard the rumors. You're not that lost, right? I heard this yesterday. Brian Cashman, he showed up to their minor league facility, their spring training facility. He didn't give us a heads up on that.
You know, the biggest thing in his case, you know, with him, you're going to have that extra media stuff. So I think really it's more of you love it's nice to get a heads up that he would be coming for security purposes, for our security guards, and for maybe, what the complex or over here would be prepared to deal with, because obviously there's a lot of attention surrounding him. Yeah. So we'd like to be prepared for that a little bit better, but that's all.
Yeah, did the Beatles tell every cafe they were showing up for lunch? Is A-Rod supposed to give everybody a heads up? I'm coming! Hey, I work for the Yankees. You should have enough security there to be prepared for it. You love getting the back page. You love getting more press than the Mets. You love people talking about you and not the Jets and the Giants and the Knicks. And A-Rod's a huge part of that. When A-Rod came to that town, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all sorts of empty seats. All sorts of empty seats. That stadium filled Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with A-Rod. Oh, yeah, contract extension. You didn't know what was going on. Give me a break. A-Rod no longer needs you. You owe him $61 million, and your team's lousy. You need him. You need him to drive in 75 runs. And he's not terrible for baseball. He's a villain. He sells tickets. He's handsome. He's articulate. He's polarizing. And the bottom line of the Yankees for years and years have always had this no mustache, no facial hair, be at home for dinner, no individualism. Get home for dinner at 7 p.m. Come on now. You knew the game with Jeter. You knew every night he was hitting it. He just kept it out of the papers, so you loved it. So all you guys out there that want 15% returns, then be able to go belly up. All you managers out there that like, attention, attention, attention. Deal with it when guy goes over the line. Deal with it. If you're not comfortable with being uncomfortable, get lost. Because that's what everybody wants. They want all the big returns, and they want the pizzazz, and you want A-Rod, and you want the tickets, and you want this, but he didn't call us for security. I mean, a little old lady out front wasn't ready for all those paparazzi. Then hire more people. That's the downside to having stars. A-Rod's the Beatles. He's a rock star. He is a big deal. Good, bad, indifferent. Everybody likes Manny Ramirez. You don't like it when he pees on the outfield wall at Fenway. You loved it that he sold tickets to every little kid who wanted to be the next Manny, but occasionally he couldn't control his bladder. Deal with it. I mean, the Dodgers, they love Manny. Come on out, Manny World, Manny World. Oh, he's a little bit of a head case. Yep. So is every rock star. So is Puig. Deal with it. It's amazing, all this. The Yankees now, it just we couldn't. I mean, it didn't give us a heads up on the security. And I heard somebody call this morning. I can't trust him. Not babysitting your kids. What do you care? Go to the game. Hits a 3-run jack. They beat Tampa. Who cares if you can trust A-Rod? He's not family. He's not an elected official. It's entertainment. When I go to a concert, Bon Jovi may have had an affair. I know it's Bon Jovi. It's an old reference to boxing, a thing I was at. I mean, do you really, when you go to a rock concert, are you worried about what they do at home? I can't trust him when he's around his kids. What do I give a rip? He's trashing a hotel room down in Century City. I don't give a rip. God, it's like the Yankees love all this attention as long as it's all on their terms. Give me a break. It's like hiring Nick Wallenda to walk across your city. He may end up a street pizza. It's Chicago. It's windy. It's the winter. Ooh, this is amazing. Yeah, and if he falls, Chicago, the site of Nick Wallenda's death. You better be comfortable with it. That's why I don't ride motorcycles. I don't get on motorcycles. I don't like being a passenger in a car. I'm not comfortable with that. I don't want to be on motorcycles. I don't trust myself. I don't trust somebody else. There was somebody in my hometown years ago that was the back of a motorcycle, fell off and died. I'm not comfortable with it. There's something up there in the recesses of my mind. I don't want to be on a motorcycle, especially on the back. So I don't get into them. Heard brought to you by Regis. New way to work. Call 1-800-OFFICES, 1-800-OFFICES. Hold on. Here we go. I'm so fired up. My buddy Jason just sent this. I'm so fired up for this. Now, call me. Am I crazy on this? So, yeah. Look at you're working with me, not against me. It would be nice to have a staff that worked in conjunction with me to elevate me and not mock me. That would be nice occasionally. Incredible. So I'm reading this story. Celebrities beware. There will be no comps on the May 2nd MGM Grand in Vegas fight between Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. There's going to be no comps. Now, having spent time in Vegas, they usually comp a lot of the ringside people. Apparently, Vin Diesel, Claude Van Damme, make another average movie. You got to pay for it yourself. Jack Nicholson, you're making a ton off royalties. You get no comps. Andy Garcia, you're rich enough. You get no comps. David Beckham, go bend it somewhere else. Charles Barkley, stay at the tables, lose more money. Justin Bieber, age limit, nobody wants to see you anyway. I would consider giving Ray Liotta the one comp ticket because he could kick my arse if I didn't. Other than that, no comp tickets. But am I nuts here? Look at this. Am I nuts here? I'm going to read this to you. I don't understand how this works because I've never been in this ball game. I'm going to read you a quote from this Manny Pacquiao thing. Because of the price of the tickets, MGM, for example, will only give ringside tickets to its customers who have a $250,000 line of credit. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. That seems like a very low line of credit. At casinos, does that mean you've given them $250,000? I don't think so. It means we think you can cover $250,000. Well, a bank will give you a $250,000 line of credit if you give them $25,000 for a house. So if I walk up to the MGM and say, here's $25,000, do I get a $250,000 line of credit and then a front row seat? Then I gamble a little win and get lost? Am I out of my mind there? Somebody from the MGM call me. What does that mean? If I have a $250,000 line of credit, how many listeners do I have that own a house that's worth $250,000? You don't have to pay the whole thing off. So if I just go to a casino, I play for a couple hours, I have $25,000. I sit like an old grandma and play some slot machines. I can get a ringside seat. So I can spend the day playing Keno with Marge and Gert. Here's your seat. Sweet. I'm right next to Andy Garcia. How's that work? A $250,000 line of credit. It doesn't. A line of credit. Meaning you haven't paid. It's a line of credit. That's what do you have to get in Vegas to get a $250,000 line of credit? It can't be that much, right? They got to verify some income. So Stanzik, you could hit the nickel slots. You could be ringside. It's incredible. That is unbelievable. That seems incredibly low. I'd want like a $2 million line of credit. You'd want whales from Southeast Asia. $250,000 line of credit? What is that? A bank gives you that for a house. Am I nuts? How does that work? All you bankers, tell me how that works. That seems low for Pacquiao Mayweather.
Colin Cowherd. The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Herd, I love this. I'm 34, been watching boxing for as long as I can remember. I love the fact you're talking about this. It's so great. Great fighters. Not many left. Pacquiao Mayweather's an all-timer from Eric. Eric, I love it. Listen, it's going to be an all-timer. By the way, you want to know what that weekend is? NFL draft, Kentucky Derby, Mayweather, Pacquiao, and NBA playoffs. I mean, nothing against the Kentucky Derby, but I'm not watching horses. I'm not watching horses. I got the NFL draft. I got Manny Pacquiao, Mayweather. I've got probably a great, LeBron knocking off John Wall and knocking him out of the playoffs again. I got to turn to that. Get to Subway. Better for you. Great tasting grilled chicken strips. Subway. Eat fresh. All right, Peter King, MondayMorningQuarterback.com. I want to get into this thing for a couple minutes on Jameis Winston. The Bucs have been around for 4 decades, Peter. Tampa Bay. They got the number 1 pick. You talked to their GM, Jason Light. Is this the biggest pick they have ever had?
That's what he thinks, and I can't argue with him. This is a team that they've tried. You're going back to Doug Williams, who I would say probably, certainly had his greatest moment of glory in Washington and not Tampa. Then going to Trent Dilfer and, Freeman. And, I think they have never, if this is going to be the 40th season they play, they've never had what you call a franchise quarterback. Vinny Testaverde, I mean, they've drafted quarterbacks very high, but they've never had one. Hey, Colin, the amazing thing is they've never had the same guy play quarterback for him for more than 5 years in a row.
Wow.
Now, they've had the same guy on the team for more than 5 years. I'm talking about starting, regularly for more than 5 years. It hasn't happened. So I think you look at it, and especially when you have the first pick in the draft, where there are 2 quarterbacks that you look at that have the ability, you would think, to be franchise-type players, they've got to take them. And look, the one thing that I really didn't write Monday in my column was that, we talked about what happens if you get some kind of great offer for it. And he said we're leaning very, very strongly one way. He wouldn't say which way, but it's clear that they're leaning toward, no matter what kind of offer they get, they're leaning toward taking one of those guys.
Peter King, TheMondayMorningQuarterback.com. Now it's Marcus Mariota, who also had a very good combine. And I look, and I think you agree with me on this, I don't see him dropping below the Jets. I mean, to me, the Jets feel like Marcus Mariota. Do they not?
Yeah, I think so. Look, no one knows McCagnon. No one knows Todd Bowles as far as their personnel preference. So I don't know what they're going to do. But all I'm saying is that you look at the logical stuff now 9 weeks out of the draft. And logically, let's all, let's be honest. You're the New York Jets. If you somehow, some way let Marcus Mariota past you, that's something that could haunt the franchise for a long time. Now, obviously, maybe he doesn't make it. Maybe these fears about him not being able to play in the pocket, maybe those are all valid. We'll see. But it just seems like whether it be them or whether it be a team trading up, the Eagles, the Rams, the Browns, who knows? Someone, I think, is going to get to either pick 5 or 6 if Mariota is still there by then, and they're going to take him.
Sal Powell called it the NFL convention. Ratings have now gone through the roof. Go back to the first combine you were ever at. Why is it now, in recent years, so haltingly popular? It seems so much bigger today than a decade ago, Peter.
Well, it is. For every one member of the media in the year 2000, there were 53 members of the media there this year.
Wow.
And it's up 5,300%. I think there's 3 reasons. Number one, anything that has the NFL's name on it right now people are going to go nuts over. And the fact is that there are people who love to watch, and not just the quarterbacks, but love to watch, hey, let's compare how Blake Sims throws the out under the exact same conditions to how Jameis Winston throws it, to how Brett Hundley throws it, to how Marcus Mariota throws it. So, you get to see these guys do the same things in the exact same conditions. 2, I think one of the great things about what NFL Network does is they put Mike Mayock. I could talk to Mike Mayock for 8 hours and we could come up with new topics to talk about, and he'd be so much fun to talk about. So, really, if you watch NFL Network's coverage of the draft, at some point you're going to hear an 8-minute riff on your team. So, I think that's valuable to people. And I also think, Colin, you get the crossover fans. Matt told me about this last week. You get the fans who, like, they're the college fans. You get the Alabama fans. I want to see how Blake Sims does head-to-head right now against Jameis Winston throwing the football. I think those things become really popular, especially at a dead time on the sports calendar.
The announcement the Raiders and Chargers have bonded to kind of fact-find about a new stadium project in L.A. and Carson, the suburb. What does that say to you? What is the overriding picture? Raiders, Chargers now working together.
It's dogs and cats falling in love.
Yeah.
And it's the craziest thing. You know, could you imagine, you know, the Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles bonding together to go do a project together? It's part of it is crazy, but I think it just shows the increasing desperation that those two franchises have to find a home that's going to keep them competitive and going to be able to keep them, to have the same kind of earning potential that some teams above them have.
Yeah.
Where it's going to be really, really interesting. And again, we're 2 minutes into a 60-minute football game here because you just don't know what's going to happen. But what is interesting about this is what it would do to the alignment of the NFL as we know it. You can't have both teams in the same division, either in New York or L.A. or some major market like that. So, in other words, you would have you'd have to have either the Raiders or the Chargers move divisions. And, you know, what I proposed yesterday in my column was, how about the Rams moving from the NFC West to the AFC West, having arch rivals now with the Kansas City Chiefs, and then having the Chargers move into the NFC West, and it would be an all-Western conference instead of having 3 teams in the West and 1 team in the Midwest like St. Louis. But whatever happens, this is all driven by the desperation of 3 teams to get new stadiums: St. Louis, San Diego, and Oakland.
The MondayMorningQuarterback.com, Peter King. I'll tell you, I know it's the off season, but you're not missing a step on this on your weekly column. You're giving me the coffee stuff. You're giving me. You feel like the NFL's gotten so big now. Peter, do you ever get a 3-week stretch where you can just go drink coffee, read books, and watch baseball?
I certainly will. It happens in the summer. Now, my daughter's getting married this year, so it'll be a little bit of an atypical year, but I always find 3 weeks, 4 weeks in the summer where I sit around and do nothing, and it's quite enjoyable, I must admit.
Peter King, good stuff, Peter. Thank you.
You're in the Herd, the Thundering Herd podcast.
Yeah, the Yankees were all upset that A-Rod yesterday didn't give him a heads up, but everybody wants the payoff of risk, but then they don't want to be uncomfortable and deal with the risk. Well, with A-Rod, you knew the story. You signed him. Now you don't like any of the bad stuff with him. Well, you had Jeter for 20 years and had no bad stuff. You know, the Yankees have always wanted to be in control. No beards, no mustaches. It's a different world now. You can't control every athlete. In the NBA, the player no longer needs the media. Tom Brady doesn't need the media. Peyton Manning doesn't need the media. LeBron doesn't need the media. What is this thing where we have to control athletes? A-Rod is a star in a sport that has almost none outside of like Puig and Mike Trout. So I saw this email. Hi, it's Scott in Austin, Texas. I heard what you said about May 2nd. NFL draft, Kentucky Derby, NBA playoffs, Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. Please don't talk me into moving the wedding we've planned for May 2nd. What do I do? I've already got $12K non-refundable invested in the venue alone. This is horrible. What if my boys don't show up? Scott. Everything's refundable. Everybody says non-refundable. If you're like, I love this place, but we had a death in the family. You don't think they'll move it? The cake and flowers thing. Look at you guys. Everything, it's like contracts. They're all meant to be broken. Everything's refundable. You just make a stink out of it. Everything's refundable. It's non-refundable. You have a death in the family. It's not refundable. Even airlines move stuff.
So you want that guy to say, hey, sorry, it's a Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. Can I get my $12,000 back?
Just say,
that's not going to happen.
Nobody's going to show up for my wedding. I don't want my money back. Can I just move it? It's not about getting your money back. It's about moving the wedding to a date where people will show up. This kid didn't check the calendar. I feel bad for him. You're not saying the money back.
You didn't check the calendar 2 days ago when this fight was announced? Well, you probably booked this thing 6 months ago.
That's what I'm saying. So you walk up and you say, can I push it back 6 weeks? Like that's the end of the world. Like a wedding.
The venue may be booked until next year.
Oh, yeah, there's never. Come on.
That's wedding season.
By the way, May is wedding season?
Oh, yeah, that's the beginning of wedding season.
How do you know that? What is that? Is there a wedding season?
I have a lot of friends who are getting married.
In May?
Yeah, that's the start of it.
I know there's a hurricane season. There's a wedding season?
Absolutely.
That's pathetic. When's divorce season? The other 11 months? Jesus. Lawrence, you're in the herd. Go ahead.
Yeah, how's it going, Colin?
How you doing?
All right. Hey, I'm with you. I grew up during the Frazier, Ali, Norton, Foreman, Spinks era, and I used to love boxing. I mean, even the lightweights, the Sugar Ray Leonard,
sure.
That was, and people in our younger audience probably doesn't realize that back in the day, up through the Tyson era, if you were the heavyweight champion of the world, you were the king of the sports world. There was no.
Oh God, Mike Tyson was the most talked about human being on the planet. So was Ali.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, no golfer, no Tiger Woods, no Michael Jordan, Larry Bird. You were the man in sports if you were the heavyweight champion of the world. I used to love that boxing.
No, I mean, there is something at a guttural level that's attractive about it. There's just something at a guttural level that is, and it's really funny. Over the last 15 years, the NFL has just grown in so many different ways in popularity. It's now the #1 TV show on 5 networks, and it's always been popular. But if you go back, you ask people in New York, Vegas, or Los Angeles, Atlantic City in the 70s and 80s. I mean, you can go back to, Joe Louis and Ali, and those Ali Frazier fights were the biggest thing in the world. Howard Cosell, those were the biggest things in the world. They really were. It's hard to explain to a 20-year-old kid. Like, people like now are like, oh, UFC. UFC is not a mosquito and boxing's. They're a mosquito and boxing's an elephant. It's not even close. UFC, it never stops people in their tracks. The world watched boxing. I'll tell you how big boxing was. When I was a kid, like a lot of you, they don't have them as much anymore, maybe in smaller towns, but when I was a kid, one of the things you used to have in television, you used to have like these morning shows that you'd watch before you went to school. Like in Chicago, it was Bozo the Clown, and every city would have like a different kid show. Yeah, and I was a kid in the Pacific Northwest, so it was J.P. Patches. It was Seattle's funny guy, J.P. Patches. And I think it was on like Cairo TV, the CBS affiliate. So he was an employee of Cairo. And it was J.P. would come on, and he lived in this little garbage dump area, and he had Gertrude and all his little characters. He was sort of pre-Pee Wee Herman. He had a very adult sense of humor, so my mom would laugh as I was laughing. Half the jokes were over my head. It was very Pee Wee Herman. The kids would laugh. Yeah, there he is right there. There's J.P. Patches. He's the voice of my early life. So he did this show, and it was very kind of snarky and funny and ahead of its time, right? And so just to show you how big boxing was, in the middle of a show, kid's show, you're doing the show, right? Little funny things. He interrupts the show, and he goes, hey, Gertrude, Ali just beat Foreman in Zaire. All right, let's go back to the games. Literally, I'm a clown again. He was Jim Lampley for like 4 seconds. But it was like, I remember being a kid, and I remember caring about that. I was a young kid. I remember caring because you couldn't see the fight on television. It was like Miracle on Ice, except you couldn't even watch it on replay. I was 9. I had 30 bones on the fight. I cared, okay? I was betting the kids in the neighborhood. Oh, it's just so great. I know 90% of you are like, Colin, nobody cares about this stuff. I remember going to a fight one time, and they held it at the Bally's when I was in Vegas. They held it at Bally's. Look this up real quick. I forget. Nigel Benn and Aran Barkley. Look this up. Nigel Benn, a British kid, and Iran Barkley. And it was the strangest thing I've ever gone to. So I go to it with a buddy named Scott Reynolds, who's now in Louisville. He's a newscaster in Louisville. And he would remember this. Okay. So there it was. It was 1990 at Bally's, and the ref was Carlos Padilla. Yeah, well, middleweight fight. So they go into the ring, and I think it's a Saturday. And I had covered the fight. These guys were big haymaker guys. They weren't great fighters. They were very good. So Scott Reynolds and I it's either Scott Reynolds or Jerry O'Lennon was a sports guy. We're way back. We don't have great seats. We're way in the back. And it's not a natural arena. It's sort of like they put chairs out. And so you had to kind of stand in your chair if you were in the back, and it was smoky as hell. So they start fighting, and I don't remember it. I think it's the greatest fight I've ever been to. I think there were 5 knockouts in 4 rounds. And I turned to either Jerry or Scott. It may have been Jerry. We were laughing so hard. I'm like, we are watching the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. They just kept getting up and knocking each other out, and they were swinging for the fences. It was that's the wildest fight I've ever been to. And it was a Saturday afternoon, I think, because I wasn't working that day. I don't think I've ever had more fun for an hour of my life than that event. I don't even count the Seahawks Patriots Super Bowl. It was the weirdest fight. I'm going to take a break and watch it here. I got to go back memory lane. It was bizarre.
Want more of the Herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
All right, so Chris Broussard joining me. First of all, I said this yesterday, and I said I'm going to put my wobbly reputation on the line. Kendrick Perkins now gives them 2 bigs in Cleveland. They got wing guys. Shumpert and J.R. Smith is playing like the best he's ever played outside of those couple years in Denver when he was a kid. They're going to blow through the East. Am I wrong? The Cavs are going to blow through the East at least.
If they don't stop themselves. The one team I think could give them some trouble is Chicago. And if they're healthy is always a phrase you have to throw in with the Bulls. You say that about every team, but more so the Bulls. I don't doubt that Noah will be able to play, but will he be banged up? Will something be wrong? Will Rose, where's he going to be at? He's not playing well lately. So that's always a question with Chicago. But I do like the Cavaliers in the East. Colin, they are stacked. That team is loaded.
Outside of a backup point, they got 2 of everything.
And I talk to people in Cleveland, and we need a backup point. I'm like, look, nobody's perfect. No team has everything. And LeBron James, we all know how great he is. But if you want to, they need to win it this year. Win it this year, and then I think people will start talking about maybe that'll even raise his legacy a little bit more. If he could go to Cleveland with a team where your stars most of them never played together, but never won a playoff series, never been to the playoffs, and you lead them to a championship, those are the types of things you have to do if you want to start being compared with Michael Jordan, right?
And it's also, I think there's a different time, and I've said this for years. I never understood. I thought it was so simplistic that, LeBron getting people together in Miami was a bad thing. It used to be in the NBA. You've covered it forever. Yeah. Okay, I've been watching the NBA for 45 years. It used to be in the 70s. If you had the star center, you were a favorite for the finals. Yeah. Then all of a sudden it's like you needed 2 great players. Now you need 4.
Well, and look, Magic didn't have to go anywhere. He walked onto a team with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Yeah, if you're born then they get James Worthy. Bird gets McHale, Parrish.
These are traditional powerhouses.
Exactly. So I always thought I can understand what the veterans were trying to say, but when you really analyze it, it wasn't fair because most of these guys went to teams that were power packed.
Ask you this. If you're born on Long Island and your dad's a hedge fund guru, You don't have to move to get rich.
That's right.
Rush Limbaugh was born in a small town in Illinois. He had to leave. Why would we ever criticize any American who chases a dream and moves across state borders? That's the world we live in now. It's not what it used to be. Okay, let's get to this whole Derrick Rose thing. I've never been as much in love. Wilbon loves him. I think he's a fireworks show. 6'2", $188, dripping wet, doesn't win a title. Now the guy can't shoot. I said this. I'm more accurate. Watch this. My field goal percentage is more accurate throwing things into that.
Let's see.
Than Derrick Rose. Okay, maybe we're the same. Dude, he's shooting 12% in the last.
Look, last 3 games, 23% shooting, 10 points, 5 assists a game.
What's happened?
It's odd because he was playing well, or at least the last 2 games heading into the break. He averaged 26.5 points, was shooting a good percentage, 7 assists.
Is it physical?
People were starting. I don't think it's physical. People were starting to think, okay, he's rounding into form. He's getting back to being the Derrick Rose we all knew and loved. I'm not going to make a judgment off these 3 games. He may just, sometimes you go into a slump, you miss shots. But look, the Bulls aren't too concerned because they're still winning. Now, they haven't played great teams, although they blasted Cleveland the day before the All-Star break. But they've won 6 of their last 7 with Rose struggling in these last 3.
Well, Butler's become such a great player for them.
And you still got Gasol. I mean, like I said, that's a team that's got a lot of talent. So I'm picking Cleveland. I'm with you in the East, but the Bulls are going to make it tough on you.
I think it's during the trade deadline, there were no stars, but I thought Oklahoma City getting Enes Kanter in size, and I thought Portland getting Aaron Aflalo, another kind of a second unit guy. Again, I don't think those guys are going to win the title, but you start looking at Oklahoma City. I kind of thought that window was closing. Their size, Golden State physically, I don't think Golden State matches up with Oklahoma City's size anymore.
If Oklahoma City, and they're going to get the 8th or make the playoffs, they'll probably be the 8th seed. If they're playing well, like if Durant's health is not a question,
okay,
I'm picking them over Golden State. Because, look, I know the role players are a big factor. You said it. The size in Oklahoma is going to be tough to beat. But are you essentially, you got Steph Curry and Klay Thompson versus Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Each team has 2 superstars. I would take Golden State's 2 over, Oklahoma's 2 over Golden State's 2.
So would I. At this point in their careers, yeah.
Yeah, right now. And then, like you said, Kanter is huge. I give Oklahoma City as much a chance to win the title, not just the West, the title, as any team in the league.
What about Portland?
I like Portland. I'd have a hard time seeing them win it all or even win the West. I think they could upset a contender.
Aren't they Golden State with more size and a better bench? A lot of guys can drop 20.
I like them, but I haven't seen it from them.
Inconsistent.
That's part of it. They got blown out last year by San Antonio in the second round.
And for the record, we're done with San Antonio, right?
I'm ready to put the nail. Now, I hesitate to do this. I did this like 5 years ago.
Just do it.
But I see Tony Parker. People think he's still old, young Tony Parker. He's in his 14th year. He's averaged 12 points on 42% shooting since January 1st. And he's always been a high percentage shooter, always around 50%.
Just a different world.
He's just older, and they were motivated. You and I talked earlier. They had that singular focus. We gave away a title. Let's go get it.
When you covered the Cavs, didn't you work for the Akron
Beacon Journal?
Akron Beacon Journal.
And I covered. They had Bobby Fields, Chris Mills, and Terrell Brandon. That was their big 3. That was the first big 3 in Cleveland.
So you were pre-LeBron.
Oh yeah, LeBron was like a little.
Were they in Ridgefield
like
at the time?
9 or 10-year-old kid. They were back. They were still in the same arena. It was called Gund Arena.
Yeah,
but they were not. They had just moved from Ridgefield, and LeBron was like 9 years old or something. I bet I saw him playing at a little summer tournament.
When was the first time you heard about him?
A friend of mine who was in LeBron's inner circle. Okay. Was a mentor to LeBron when LeBron was coming up. When I had just gone to the New York Times. LeBron was like 8th grade. Okay, so this 2000, something like that. No, it would have been before that, maybe 98, 99. He says to me, we're on the phone, we got the next Jordan, the next guy. And in my mind, I'm like, right. Akron, Ohio. Ohio's a football state. You don't have the next Jordan. I didn't say that to him. He's like, we just won the national tournament. This dude was killing everybody. named LeBron James. I'm like, yeah, all right. He's telling me he can do everything.
15-year-old?
Yeah, he was probably 13 maybe at that, 12 or 13. He's like big, can handle, got court vision, and I didn't believe it. And then about a year, when he was a freshman or sophomore, you start hearing about him. Larry Bird told me he's the only player he's ever seen that could have went to the NBA after his junior year of high school. And he probably could have.
Oh, of course he could have.
Yeah. I mean, people forget LeBron stepped into the league. He's the only player ever to go straight from high school to the NBA to pretty much dominate right away. He averaged 20 as a rookie.
Did you see his first game against Sacramento?
I was there. I covered it for the New York Times. Yeah, 28, 9, and 7 or something like that. Okay,
Kobe couldn't get on the floor for 2.5 years.
You're right. See, that's the thing.
But you were there for LeBron's first.
I was there. And remember, he struggled in the preseason. And people were thinking, this kid, it's going to take him a while. I was there. 28 points, I think 9 rebounds and 7 assists, or maybe those two were.
Oh, here it is right
against a good Kings team. Remember, that was a great Kings team when they had Peja Stojakovic.
Dude, he played 42 minutes.
Oh, he was dominant. Was it 25 points?
25 points, 9 assists,
6 rebounds.
6 rebounds, 4 steals.
Yeah,
he's 19 years old.
That's when I talked to Bird the next day, and he told me he's the only player I've ever seen who could have gone to the NBA after his junior year. And he said, if we're not talking about this kid in the Hall of Fame within 5 years, something went tragically wrong. Direct quote from Larry Bird. And obviously he's going to be,
he had a couple, he had a couple of 9s. He had a bad night 3 nights later.
Yeah, an 8 and a 7.
He had what, Vince? 33 points in his 17th game. I'll tell you what, he didn't have many dogs. His NBA went 25, 21, 8, 7, 23, 17, 17, 18, 10, 22, 14, 28.
Look at that 33-point game against Memphis, 16 rebounds and 7 assists.
19 years old.
That's crazy. I mean, but not one kid, I guess you could say, came close. Kyrie Irving essentially came out of high school.
He played 8 games at Duke.
Yeah, 11 games at Duke, and then averages, 18, 17?
One of the things that excites me, I got to go here, I love finding the next great player. Like, I
usually they sneak up on you.
Andrew,
don't you think?
I'll tell you
Wiggins.
This.
No, Wiggins is great.
Andrew Wiggins is doing. Oh.
Do you think Cleveland made a mistake with the trade?
No, because First of all, I just told you this yesterday, Stanzik. They could really use another wing defender. That is Wiggins. But they couldn't get love without him. But he's averaging 15 a game on a horrible team. You put him in New York or L.A. where he gets publicity, Andrew Wiggins is already.
Oh, he's playing great.
Oh, no. He is the real deal.
Yeah.
He is a 25-point-a-game guy in 2 years.
He's going to be a star. Some people, I should say, I've talked to, they wonder, does he have that mentality?
Yes.
That dog, that Kobe. He might. You don't.
By the way, LeBron doesn't.
No.
You don't have to.
You don't have to. I mean, you're right. Tim Duncan, they're different personalities. But some people think Wiggins might have the personality of more of a Scottie Pippen or Vince Carter or something. Yeah, no, it's still a great player, but I love him. And hopefully Zach LaVine can play some ball.
Oh, God.
Because he can dunk.
Oh, slow down on Zach LaVine. I like Adam Maroon 5, but Zach I'm not sold on. Good seeing you, buddy. Chris Broussard.
Putting style in black T-shirts. It's Colin Cowherd, the Thundering Herd podcast.
So this freshman eligibility, and it's just so funny. They want to do it in football and basketball, the only sports that make any money. What about the 400-meter breaststroke person? They got to go right in there and start swimming right out of high school? That's kind of a rip-off. This is amazing. Let's get Jay Bilas on the line. I want to talk about a bunch of stuff. Let's start with this. Not every problem in the world is solvable. Court storming, Jay, is it's kind of become part of the college basketball culture. Is it a completely solvable problem?
Well, it's solvable the same way it is how the pro leagues can keep fans off the field and fans off the court after a game. I mean, you don't see court stormings in the NBA or Major League Baseball or the NFL, and it's because they want to protect the assets that they have, and that's the players and certainly the field, and to avoid liability. And in college, these court stormings in basketball have become so commonplace that they're almost kind of passé, really. And it's the end of every SportsCenter highlight when there's an upset.
even if the number 24 team beats the number 18. You know, they storm the court. And somebody's going to get hurt, and then we're going to go, why didn't we stop this before? But the one at Kansas State took on kind of a different tenor because the players got hurt. I mean, they went after the players. Like somebody hit Jamari Traylor, just came and body slammed him, and Bill Self got pinned up against the scorer's table. Like, nobody got injured, but it was a situation where there could have been a problem, and you just have to ask yourself, is it worth it, and is it important enough to deal with?
Would it be better served to just protect the visiting team? Don't try to stop the court. It's impossible. There's too many kids. They're wild. They're young. And just go and have a police force around the visitors and get them off the court. Would that perhaps be the way?
Yeah, they do that at some places. You know, they line up a bunch of people in yellow coats just to get the team off so they can have the Little League handshake first and then get them off. But I do think, look, they can stop it. These are not mobs, out there. They can stop it if they want to. The truth is they don't want to because it makes a nice visual. And everybody wants the visual. They just want to make sure that they get the visual without the attendant problems to it. And, I'm fine with it. If they want the visual, that's fine. But you're right. I think the first thing, as long as they protect the players and get the opponent off. But you don't want a situation. You have situations where you have opposing teams looking down the bench at the other bench going, we may just leave earlier. I'm going to get my guys out of here now.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have stuff like that.
Jay Bilas, ESPN. There's something that happened last week that I am diametrically opposed to. Emotionally, economically, I don't like freshman ineligibility. I don't think that's a message we should be sending to the most talented people in any workspace. I don't like it. Calipari doesn't like it. How does Jay Bilas feel?
I think it's one of the dumbest things that has been said out loud by anybody involved in NCAA sports. Why you would go back to something that was prevalent 40 years ago for no real reason, and it's only so that they can say this other ridiculous thing, which is they're students first who just happen to be athletes. Nobody else has to prioritize their lives like that. What if you're a great student, but you want to be a basketball player first? So you get all your homework done and you get really good grades, but hey, I'm an athlete first who just happens to be a student and a good one. It just doesn't fit their narrative and into their neat little box. I don't think this is going to go anywhere, but what it's probably going to ultimately accomplish is it's going to make everybody everybody in the NCAA structure, whether they're conference commissioners or the like, look like they're totally out of touch and that they're only willing to do this with a sport that is two sports that are predominantly African American and bringing them billions of dollars, and the country club sports get to play if they want to.
Right.
And that strikes me as just being ridiculous. Instead of, why don't you look at each individual? Like, if they say that, well, we don't want kids who aren't interested in college. Well, if they applied for admission and they were admitted and they show up, doesn't that kind of show they're interested? And if they're not doing their homework, then maybe each school should determine that and say, well, wait a minute, you're not doing your homework, so we're not going to let you play. Instead of making everybody ineligible, and then they can look at Congress or the courts or whoever and say, look, see, this is about education. It's about education first, when this whole time they've said that sports are an integral part of the educational experience. Okay, well, what happened to that? None of it makes sense. It's just yet another PR campaign that is of zero consequence.
It's interesting.
And will cost them a ton of money. It's going to cost them a ton of money because they're going to need more scholarships. You take away freshmen, they're going to have more players in the pipeline, and it's going to cost them a ton of money.
They already have redshirting, and it should be noted, outside of the top programs, 90% of freshman football players redshirt anyway. How many college kids are ready for college as a freshman?
Most of them are ready. There's just an adjustment period. It's like, you have to go through it. So it's just not this big of a deal. A lot of this is aimed at the perception of the one-and-done culture. So on one side, when you talk about their employees and they should be paid, then they go, wait a minute, it's only a very small percentage that ever go on to the NBA, so it's ridiculous. And then you talk about sort of this one-and-done thing, and they say, we have to stop this. This one-and-done culture is ruining America. Well, come on. It's not that kids aren't interested in going to college. It's just that they're getting better offers. So they go to college, and then they're seen to be a first-round draft pick or a lottery pick, and they leave. But if we really believe that education is this wonderful thing, which I happen to believe, then we should be encouraging everyone to go to college, get into the pipeline where they're more likely to come back and finish their educations. And all of these people that are talking about freshman eligibility are also talking about the wonderful benefits of lifelong learning. Well, how are you going to get somebody into the wonderful benefits of lifelong learning if you don't let them in the first place? So instead of opening the door and saying, come on in and see if you can clear the bars that we've set, we want to have you, we're putting up more and more barriers and we're also putting up barriers in the African American community and the minority community when it's not at all necessary. Nobody can show any benefit to this by saying, hey, if you don't play your freshman year, look how graduations rate. Look at all the Nobel Prizes we're winning when guys just sit out their freshman year. There's no data behind it.
And finally, Kentucky's the most athletic team in the country. Offensively, at times this year, they haven't been great. It looks like Calipari's tweaked something offensively. They're a little more vibrant. You go into a tournament undefeated, there's that unspoken pressure if a game is tied with 8 minutes to go. Your gut feeling on Kentucky and how this ends?
I think it's going to end well for them because, Colin, I think they play their best in the big games. I still think they're likely to get beat. But if they get beat, it's going to be by somebody that you don't really expect. So they're not going to be totally engaged. This other team's going to knock down a bunch of shots. There's going to be some game pressure at the end of the game. They get clipped. But one thing that they're doing now is they're attacking more. I think Kentucky, while we talk about other teams, hey, they're going to get better, and they've gotten better. They're improving as we get to the end of the season. Kentucky's getting better, too. And that's a little bit scary. But their offense is really improving. They're getting more contributions from different spots, and they're playing at a little bit of a faster pace of late and trying to play ahead of the defense. They're really formidable. They're not unbeatable, but they're the best team, and they're the best team by a fair clip. The team that I'm going to see the team that I think has the best chance to beat them tonight in Wisconsin, because Wisconsin doesn't foul and they don't turn the ball over, and they're very skilled. And when you do that, when you don't foul and put the opponent on the free throw line, you don't turn the ball over, and you defensive rebound as well as they do. They get like 78% of the available defensive rebounds. So that's the best formula to beat Kentucky.
Yeah, it is interesting. Wisconsin doesn't foul. Seth Greenberg just told me that yesterday. Jay Bilas, ESPN, variety of topics. As always, Jay, great stuff. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Colin. Thank you.
Technology gone bad. Gone bad. This is the Thundering Herd podcast.
You can't get an honest opinion. I've said this before. People think that the media, the sports media, has like agendas. It's 1,000 times worse in the political spectrum. It's amazing. Nobody can stop themselves from being biased when it comes to political talk or political shows. You watch cable TV, all the money's on the far left, it's all on the far right, all the profits, all the margins. Nobody can be a straight shooter. It's funny, I'm watching this Bill O'Reilly story about something he said about a war he was at in the Falkland Islands and all this stuff. And immediately, the left is like, oh, he's lying. Mother Jones, CBS leans left. It's like, all right, then he must be lying. I don't know. And then he defends himself, and now he's got like two people who are defending him and saying, no, he's right, it was violent. But it'd be one thing if the right attacked him. It would be one thing if the left, for once, defended O'Reilly. It doesn't happen. I've watched this O'Reilly thing. I don't know who's telling the truth, and I don't really give a rip. To be honest with you, he makes $20 million a year. He's fine. He'll survive. He's got his own helicopter. He's fine. But the point is, it was the left attacking him, and he has to defend him. Like, you can't get an answer in politics or a commentary that isn't laced with bias. It doesn't matter whose side you're on. All the liberals will say he stinks, and all the conservatives will defend him. I don't care about your Twitter. I barely read it anyway. I really don't waste my time. But you watch it, and it's why with politics. Isn't there a network out there that wants to hire somebody that just is a no BS bottom line? Here's the story. I'm not left or right. Here's the truth. That's what Tim Russert was. And that was the only guy I liked. It's just incredible. Everybody lives in an echo chamber. And I was going to ask you this, Stanzik, again, I voted left, I voted right. I voted Clinton, I voted Bush. I'll vote for who I like. I'm a fiscal conservative, social, pretty moderate, lean lefter. All right. So Jeb Bush, I think, looks like the Republican, eventually the Republican nominee, right? Like
that's probably a stretch too, but yes, okay. I'll grant you that for now.
Hillary's going to get the nod from the left. That's why she's in hiding for 6 weeks to clean it up.
Hey, we still have plenty of time to go here, but yes, you could say that Hillary is the front runner.
Okay.
Jeb is in a group of Republicans vying for that spot.
Clinton Bush.
I'd blow the doors off. That'd be awesome.
It would. It would be. Here's my thing.
That'd be, to quote you, an all-timer.
That would be Pacquiao Mayweather past their prime, but big, do you think?
Yeah, and I got to be honest with you. When's the last time one party had 8 years in office and won the next election? Hillary, God bless you. I don't think she's winning.
I don't know. I mean, I don't have, but it's interesting because so many people have said today, Pacquiao Mayweather's not in their prime. Well, Hillary Clinton's not in her prime. The reality is big names work. I got a lot of emails this morning about Pacquiao Mayweather. People saying, oh, true fans don't, who cares about true boxing fans? This is all about pay-per-view numbers for the casual guy, the guy like me that doesn't live, breathe, eat, sleep boxing, has great memories of it. But you always get this from sports fans. What about, for instance, I'll give you an example. I'm going to try to get a ticket to it. If MGM doesn't give me a ticket, they're out of their mind. I can sell 10,000 pay-per-views in 1 hour. Well, the true boxing writer for nobody reads the newspaper, he ain't selling pay-per-views. Boxing at this point is all about pay-per-view. I can sell 10,000. I sold 100,000 of my own book. You don't think I can sell 10,000 for the greatest fight in the last 15 years? I could sell 10,000 pay-per-view in an hour. So, of course I'm going to get a seat. They'd be out of their mind not to give me a dozen.
You think you're getting comped?
No, I'm getting a media pass. That'd be stupid. Who's going to sell more? Boxing writer.
So you're going to take the place of someone that's going to be covering the event, is what you're saying?
I am covering the event. I don't have to write down what I see. It's all up here, right here, in the old vault. I am covering the event. What, am I not covering it? You think I'm going with cocktails? Yeah, I am.
I don't know. The stories you've been telling the past 2 hours.
No, but I'm covering in the fight. Obviously, I would go to the fight and talk about it all Friday, then talk about it all Monday. I'd like to go with Ray Liotta. I'm not kidding you. You think I'm joking. I wrote a chapter about him in my book. I'd like to go with Ray Liotta. If Ray Liotta gets a ticket to the fight, I will move my press pastor around Ray Liotta. I love that guy. But it's nothing against. But my whole point is that the Clinton-Jeb Bush thing, you're like, this will be an all-time election.
Oh, yeah, because of the brand. They're elevated by their last name. Absolutely.
Yeah. People too often, our sports fans get caught up in, well, they're not in their prime. If Manning and Brady meet next year in the AFC Championship, and the belief is it's Manning's last game, that rating is going to be all-time. It doesn't matter that Peyton's on his last leg. It doesn't matter that Brady's past his prime. It is the value of the name. The Bush-Clinton thing, because I wanted your opinion because you follow politics. You say to yourself, Hillary and Jeb, it's Bush-Clinton. That's the way this country works. It is. You're looking for rock stars. And whether you like them or not, I think that's a very close election. I mean, I think it is. The Elon University poll released today found that 46% would vote for Clinton over Bush in a hypothetical election. All right, so it's decided. I don't know. I don't remember how old they were for Ollie, Frazier, all of them, but there is something to be said. I'll give you a great example. Let's say next year. When is the Masters? What is it, like
April 9th to the 12th.
Tiger's a mess. It's not going to happen. But if Tiger and Mick both pass their prime, Sunday tied 17th hole. It's the greatest golf rating in a decade. They're past their prime. I mean, it just that, if Kobe ends up back in the finals, and not going to happen, but if Kobe in 4 years, Lakers reboot, they get lucky, they get Okafor in the draft, he becomes sensational. If Kobe on his last year, in fact, I think this is true. Look this up. Was the Utah-Michael Jordan finals, was that the last Jordan final?
Yeah. 98.
Okay, it was. I think it's the highest rated. In his all those years in the prime, it was Jordan's last finals against kind of a legendary non-titled team, Utah, that had Stockton Malone. I believe, because I remember going into that finals, people said it's Utah, it's small-town Utah, nobody cares. I think Utah and the Bulls, when that was played, was the highest-rated finals of all time. Michael was out of his prime. Would I watch a Tyson Holyfield rematch today? Now, you're talking about guys who are Yeah, I would. I would. Listen, remember when George Foreman came back? He was selling grills. He had a big old boiler. He couldn't move at all. Yeah, he fought Michael Moore. I mean, I watched. You don't have to be in your prime. In fact, I would argue that when you're out of your prime, you have all the branding for all those years, and there's a sense from the audience, it's the last time I get to watch you. I mean, let's be honest. Frank Sinatra, to the very end, was selling out arenas. Frank Sinatra, at the very end, is selling out. The Rolling Stones are still selling out arenas. Why? Because you think it's the last time you're going to see them. This is the last great fight in America. Manny Pacquiao and Mayweather is the last great. It doesn't matter if they're in their prime. You're not trying to get the diehard true boxing fan. You got that guy.
By the way, numbers are in. That was the highest-rated NBA Finals. Jazz Bulls 98 got an 18-7.
Where did that come from, that information? The vault. Right there. No, it's look at all these. When you watch a band, Rolling Stone, Mick Jagger's like 70. But everybody buys a ticket, you're like, I'm at the last Stones tour. Huh? Yeah. So, I mean, Derek Jeter last year was selling tickets. He's never been less athletic. He sold more tickets last year for visiting places than he did his first 5 years in the league. Because it takes a while for your brand and your popularity to grow.
Colin Cowherd. The Thundering Herd Podcast.
There's always a guy out there. I'm getting this today. I can't believe you really would pay to watch people hit each other. Yeah, absolutely. Dude, there is no more testosterone moment. Girl in your arm, whiskey neat, cigar. You feel like Andy Garcia, tux, untucked. Oh, come on, baby. It's Vegas. Come on there. Come on, fellas. You all got that in you. We're all hunters at some point, right? We are. That's the natural way of order for us, right? Can you be a guy once in a while and not be judged? Yeah, I'm going to get a maker's mark on the rocks, smoke a big fat cigar, kids won't be there, have a tux on. How you doing? How you doing? And watch a boxing match. It's America. Then I'm going to gamble after. Then I'm going to get into a sports car and drive too fast. Then I'm going to play music too loud, Grandpa. Sorry if it freaks you out. Yeah, you go knitting with Maud. Have fun. Uncle Ronaldo's going to be in Vegas thinking of my fans, tweeting pictures. Whiskey rocks, cigar, tux, wild, hanging out with Ray Liotta. I swear to God. Well, why does a guy always have to apologize for being a guy? If women like to do what women like to do, if you feel sexy, it makes you feel good, go for it. Sometimes I want to just be like, hey, guys, let's be inappropriate tonight. We're not going to break the law, but we don't want to tape this stuff. Just turn the phones off like Derek Jeter parties at his house. Here, Derek Jeter, when he invites you to his house, says all the phones here, no phones inside. I'm going to rent a nice Vegas suite. Fellas, phones down. Boom, let's play. Break the cards out. It's on Uncle Ronaldo. Then when you guys leave, you'll wake up with a nice gift basket in the morning, just like Jeter. God, it's just a bunch. Come on, fellas. You got to be able to live and be a guy once in a while. It's like the movie Hangover. Yeah, it was inappropriate, but it made for a great movie. ESPN Radio presented by Progressive. Call or click today. I'm telling you, man, cigars and hard liquor, good things happen. Post 9 o'clock. So John Calipari, like Jay Bilas and myself, hates this freshman ineligibility rule. They call it the year of transition. Don't let guys play as freshmen. You want to know why John Calipari is a great recruiter? He talks about freshman ineligibility.
When you're in the ivory tower and you're not down in this, you would make a statement that kids don't even go the whole year. At half year, they don't go. That means you're sitting up so high you have a nosebleed. If you want to ask our president what he thinks about our players, how they finish the term, how we have 13 out of 16 players with a B average, and they go to class, not internet or correspondence. Some of you may be doing that. We're not. There's not a cluster in one class. So they go to class, they do what they're supposed to, but they're a genius. That same guy in the ivory tower, if a guy goes and leaves Bill Gates to go start a company, he's fine. That kid's a genius, and I'm happy for him. But this guy is ruining our college school. What? I don't get it. Again, I'm not that smart. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But I will tell you that when I look at this, I say, what's right for the kids? Not me, not the school, not the pro, not basketball, this animal. What's right for these kids? If it's right for them, it's right for all of us.
Yeah, that's why he's a great recruiter. Amen. And I also get this. Colin, how can you support Mayweather? Have you heard about I don't care about his private life. I don't care about Mick Jagger's and Bono. I don't care about A-Rod's private life. They're entertainers. Here's my cash. Perform. You get my lettuce. You go up, hit. I'm happy with it. Don't worry about my private life. If I entertain you, great. If I don't, turn me off. I don't care about that stuff. I don't care about me. I don't have to respect the guy to enjoy his performance. You don't know what rock stars are doing. You don't know what that jazz artist is doing. You don't know how he treats his kids. Do you like Snickers? Do you know how the company president lives? Do you know about his fetishes, perhaps? Don't worry about it. Do you enjoy the product? I don't worry about Mayweather's personal stuff. When I go to watch a concert, when I go to watch a sporting event, I don't sit and I'm not sitting there as a beat writer worried about it. I'm just going to watch the entertainment value and then report it to the people who listen to my show. That's my job. I'm not here to make a moral judgment on athletes. They're uniquely flawed because they've had to give up large chunks of their life to be great at sports. It's why academics give up large chunks of their life to be academics. That's why they don't have a good jump shot. The greats all give up big chunks of their life. They're incredibly flawed. They're often the most flawed. The mailman's not nearly as flawed as the power forward. The school teacher is not nearly as flawed. The dentist is not nearly as flawed as the superstar musician, producer, director, actor, who they've given up large chunks to be superstars. You don't get there just out of the womb. You've had to literally give such a dramatic portion of your life to be great and transcendent at anything. Michael Jackson. Go look at the 10 best blank in this country. Steve Jobs, read his book. Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, Kobe. They're a little off. They're a lot off. Do I like them? Yeah. Do I enjoy them? Sure. That's all I care about. Just go perform. You can be the moralist. I just want to go watch them perform. I don't know how, it's like I hear these conservatives. Oh, I can't watch Alec Baldwin. He's too liberal. Everybody writing in L.A. lives in West Hollywood. They're all liberal. Turn your television off then. If you won't watch TV because it's liberal and you won't read newspapers, then you might as well just go live in a cave in America. In North America, the press leans left, and guess what? Every TV show you watch has a liberal producer, a liberal director, and liberal writers and liberal actors. Don't like it, turn it off. But that's the reality. Even if the star doesn't, the writers do. West Hollywood is the most liberal zip code in the country. 2 for the road. Early consumption may prevent peanut allergies. A new study says eating peanuts as a baby cut the risk of developing the allergy by 80%. Parents with allergic children have long been told to avoid peanuts. Allergy specialists say, reverse that. Have them eat peanuts early. 80% of the time, they'll be okay with peanuts. New study reveals smoking weed is 114 times safer than drinking booze. The Washington Post says, doesn't that sound like what a stoner would say? Dude, like smoking pot is 114 times safer than bourbon. That's what it says here. It's such a random number. 114 times safer than drinking booze? Yeah. A new scientific study comparing the risks associated with various drugs backs it up, proves that weed's safer. The study looked at drinking, heroin, coke, tobacco, ecstasy, meth, and cannabis. Ecstasy. Remember ecstasy? That was big for about an hour. Probably shouldn't talk about those days.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast.